Hey everyone, welcome back to World History. So today we're starting our unit on World War I or Chapter 26. So go ahead and get your notes out. Let's get started. So to kind of get us into the 20th century, there's a couple international events I do want to go over real quick. So starting in 1896, we'll have the first modern version of the Olympic Games, the one that we have every 4 years, being held ironically in Athens, Greece, to celebrate the original birthplace of the Olympics. A couple years later, in 1899, we'll have the first Universal Peace Conference in Hague, mainly to preserve the peace, keep the whole concert of Europe going, really keep the status quo of what we've been talking about in the last couple chapters going. They'll meet again in 1907 and discuss things like naval warfare and firing projectiles from balloons. Yes, that is right, folks. We now have war balloons. And there's going to be multiple conferences between 1899 and 1913, ranging from talking about trade issues to borders to popular sovereignty to ethnic groups. It's going to cover a lot of things. Now, it's important to know, one of the big things that we have to talk about is this old rivalry between France and Prussia, aka what would become Germany. And in 1871, they're going to fight the Franco-Prussian War, in which France is going to lose land, this region here in red, known as Alsace-Lorraine. When we look at European history, Alsace-Lorraine has been one of those areas that people fight over constantly. They love to be like, oh, we've got Alsace-Lorraine, we've got the best possible place. And literally, if we were to track who controls that region over European history, it's constantly switching sides, it's constantly being conquered or taken back or captured. And it's really one of those places that everybody wanted. Now, this old rivalry results in France, at least there being a major anti-German feeling, mainly because Germany still controlled Alsace-Lorraine at this point in history, and France wanted it back. So eventually, and let me move my bubble up here. So, alliances are then going to be to draw lines. Now, initially, they are intended to promote peace and discourage attacks. There's two main types that we need to talk about. Alliances, these are formal agreements to cooperate and come to one another's defense, versus ententes, which are non-binding agreements to follow common policies. Like, a great example of an entente would be, like, we all agree to wear shoes. There's, like, no formal agreement, but we're all agreeing to this non-binding agreement to follow this common policy that we all are going to wear shoes. Now, in this period of history, we're going to have the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. So we'll talk about the Triple Alliance first, made up of Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary. Germany was under the leadership of Kaiser Wilhelm II and Otto von Bismarck. Italy was under the direction of Vittorio Orlando, and Austria-Hungary was under the leadership of Franz Joseph I, aka the Central Powers. So, here in World War I, unlike World War II where we have the Allies and the Axis powers, here we have the Allied powers, which we'll talk about in a minute, which are the Triple Entente, and the Central Powers, which are the Triple Alliance. Later on, the Ottoman Empire and technically Russia will join them when Russia leaves the war, but we'll talk about that on another day. And they'll lose Italy because about halfway through the war, Italy's going to kind of wake up and be like, probably should not be on this side of the war. And so they switch sides. Like I said, the Triple Entente, these are the Allies. Initially, at the beginning, this is France under the leadership of Raymond Poincaré and Jules Clemenceau. Great Britain under Prime Minister David Lloyd George. And Russia under Tsar Nicholas II. Now, eventually, countries like Italy, Japan, and the United States will all join the Allies. And like I mentioned, Russia will pull out, but we'll talk about that later on this chapter. So here's a good map to give you an idea of kind of who was siding with who. The white regions remained neutral for as long as they could. Green are the Allies or the Triple Entente, and the orange is the Triple Alliance. So eventually, rivalries and nationalism are going to lead directly to World War I. When we talk about this, there's a number of isms we need to talk about. It's also important to note that Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire were the last of the true European empires. And there was a lot of economic competition going on as well. Now, Germany was a growing and economic military powerhouse. Remember, Germany's only existed for about 100 years at this point, versus Russia with a huge population and natural resources, but they're just now starting to get the benefits of the Industrial Revolution. Mind you, if you remember from last semester, the Industrial Revolution was during the 1810s, 1820s. We're now in the 1910s. It's 100 years later. We also talked about colonies and imperialism, especially in places like Morocco, where we're going to see France and Great Britain fight Germany over land. We literally also have examples of images of effigies of the European countries literally carving up Africa like it's a roast turkey. One of the other isms we have to talk about is militarism. This is the glorification of the military, especially with the Navy. Great Britain claims to be the best Navy, but then you have Germany swinging onto the scene and be like, hey, what's up? I'm better than you. It doesn't help that journalists are going to fuel the flames of this in a move known as yellow journalism. They're going to use sensational headlines to basically just be like, surprise, I'm here. A great way to remember the issues leading into World War I is an acronym, MAIN. So if you want to add this into your notes as I explain this, that'd probably be helpful. It's MAIN. M stands for militarism, A for alliances, I for imperialism, and N for nationalism. So really, with the exception of the alliances, this is a war of isms. See, there's nationalism. Like I said, Germany was very proud of their progress, and France was bitter about the loss of land that they'd suffered. Again, Alsace-Lorraine, this border province, was claimed by both countries, and they had fought over it previously. We also have Russia putting forward the idea of pan-Slavism due to their similar languages, and Russia declaring themselves the defenders of all Slavic peoples. This includes the Serbs, the Bosnians, the Croats, and the Slovenes. Now, the first true Slavic nation, aside from Russia, was Serbia, between the Ottoman Empire and the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Now, eventually, just the way Serbia was situated, it was pretty much sandwiched between the two major empires, the Ottoman Empire to the south and the Austrian-Hungarian Empire to the north. And in 1912, we'll see the Balkan Wars against Turkey. Really, this entire region of the Balkans, this includes countries like Bosnia and Greece, and essentially that whole southeastern part of Europe, was a powder keg just waiting to explode. Now, the powder keg will ignite in Sarajevo in Bosnia, the home of the Serbs and the Slavs, in which Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie are going to make a visit. Franz Ferdinand was the heir to the Austrian throne. Now, the Serbs viewed them as foreign oppressors. And within there, we see the rise of the Black Hand, a Serbian terrorist group. And they are going to go out of their way to attempt to kill Franz Ferdinand. Now, that being said, it's going to be a bit of a mess. The first assassin tripped and fell on his own knife. The second guy tried to throw a grenade, but it bounced off the car right back at him, killing him. At this point, we're 0 for 2. Princip was like, maybe I should just go home. I don't want to die today. And so he decided to go home. As he was going home, he passed a sandwich shop. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to get a sandwich. He goes in, gets his sandwich. Think about basically stopping at a Subway. He comes out, and lo and behold, who is parked right outside? It's Franz Ferdinand and Sophie, because his driver had made a wrong turn. Makes you wish he had stopped and asked for directions. So, seeing the opportunity, sandwich in one hand, gun in the other, Princip literally runs right up to the car and shoots both of them, killing them both. The fuse has now been lit on the powder keg. Now, eventually, Austria will strike back because, again, Ferdinand was the heir to the throne. They're also going to have the unconditional support of their ally, Germany, in which Serbia will receive an ultimatum, a final set of demands, basically being like, you're going to give up Princip, you're going to give up the rest of the Black Hand, you're going to do this, this, and this, and you're going to pay us a bunch of money. Or else. And Serbia was like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to cave to your demands. And on July 28th of 1914, Austria will officially declare war on Serbia, marking the beginning of what was known at the time as the Great War. So eventually, alliances are going to begin to kick in, with Russia and France backing Serbia. Now I should point out for the record, Kaiser Wilhelm and Tsar Nicholas, they're cousins, because, royalty, LOL, they're all related. Like, most of them married their second or third cousin. Sometimes they're siblings. Now, as they do this, both sides begin to mobilize and prepare their military forces for war. Some countries embraced an idea of neutrality, or a policy of supporting neither side in the war, mainly because they were like, no, we want to stay out of this, no thank you. That's what Great Britain and Italy initially did. And Germany's going to come up with the Schlieffen Plan to avoid a two-front war. Because think about it. You got France on this side, Russia on the other. Germany's here in the middle. If you're fighting on both sides, it's not going to end well for you. You're going to be stuck in the middle. You're going to get sandwiched. The plan was to invade France and defeat them quickly, and then turn to Russia, who was rather slow to mobilize. Again, remember, Russia is a very vast space, so getting their full army together took some time. So to do this successfully, they decided to invade Belgium to get to France. Oh, what a mistake that was. Because you know who was the ally of Belgium? The British! Ending their neutrality on August 4th, Great Britain is now going to declare war on Germany. This was the original plan of the Schlieffen Plan, push in through Belgium, take the major parts of France, including Paris, and then book it to the Eastern Front. So, the reaction to the war was kind of positive at the moment. It provided a temporary relief from internal struggles, and especially in Great Britain, the labor unrest was ended by the war. Something you've probably realized by now, war is good for the economy. We'll even talk about this again when we get to World War II in a few weeks. It also brought unity to countries, getting rid of the Russian Revolution of 1905. A lot of those issues that carried over, kind of got rid of those for now. We also have the rise of patriotism. People saw it as an exciting adventure, because, war's an adventure. Sure. It's also a fight for justice and a better world. All right, so that is it for notes for today. Your assignment is to complete the Chapter 26 map. I'll see y'all next time. Bye, everybody.